Hey guys, subscribe for daily content, and if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got a short little review of a really interesting knife, and that knife is the Civivi Synergy 4. It's actually a pretty big knife, one of the larger knives I've ever seen come out of Civivi. So a lot of people are going to be interested in it just for that reason. Comes in a couple different configurations, black or gray G10, and then we have either a trailing Tanto or trailing just a standard trailing point blade. I'll link this knife down in the description. It is absolutely available right now. It does help my channel when you use those links, but that is entirely up to you. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. And thanks so much to Civivi for sending this knife in for review. I have reviewed a couple of this knife's little brothers. This is definitely the largest version of this model that I've taken a look at. So the review is largely going to be the same. It's just a bigger version. Overall length is coming in at 9. God, it's almost 9 1/4. I thought it was just like, it is 9 1/4. God. Blade length, 3.85. Cutting edge, 3.65. How about some size comparisons? Let's just do a few here. The large pyrite, it's definitely even bigger than the large pyrite. Ontario Rat Model 1, also bigger than the Rat 1. It's important to understand that the camera's at an angle, so whatever's on bottom is going to look a little bit bigger, but it is absolutely bigger than both. How about the, let's do the Civivi Vision FG and a Civivi Elementum. There we go. And what's a good one? Maybe the Benchmade Griptilianer, in this case the Ritter Hogue. And let's do the bug out. I think that might be a good idea. Okay. How's the action? It's actually a really fun knife to flip. And the action is good. So is the detent. This is all tuned in a very satisfying way. We have this like really angled upward flipper, but it's got enough rounding here and enough jimping that when you light switch it, which is really the only way to do it, you can push button. It's just not nearly as satisfying. Man! There's a lot of blade coming out of there. Feels good, right? Access to the lock bar is good. It's got some teeth, but really, it's not all that bad. The action is nice. There's no double clutch. A little bit of encouragement there, but it'll break in. Yeah, pretty nice action. Really good. Carry profile. Thickness up against the Spyderco Pair 3. It is thicker, just straight up, the G10. Length and height up against the PM2 and Pair 3. This is a big knife. You're going to notice it in the pocket, right? Except for all the super duper macho, this or that, Cold Steel Espada XL, insert blah, blah, blah. We've heard it a million times before. Thank you for letting us know. For everybody else on the planet, this is going to be a little bit larger than what you're used to. Let's see. Blade stock thickness. I want to get that done here real quick. It's really not a super duper thick blade. Let's make sure we're grabbing on the flat here. Blade stock thickness, it's still only 115 thousandths. Wait, what are we looking at for materials? Nitro V G10 nested steel liners. So there's your materials there. A little bit more going into those materials than what we typically see from Civivi, but those are the base materials. 5.19 ounces, not surprising at all. Definitely a little bit on the heavy side. It's actually balanced better than I thought. I thought the balance would be way back here. It's not quite up to the pivot, but it's about right in between. So it's going to feel like a larger knife, but it's not like, oh my gosh, I can't keep my pants up, right? Let's do a hardware check and get into the old meat and potatoes here. I'm going to get on my tools. As per usual, my tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description. It talks about the tools I use on this channel. We're going to go with a T8 because that's what Civivi typically uses. So we have a T8 for the pivot. We have a T8 for the body screws, same way on this side. 2 on each side and 2 T6 screws for the pocket clip, which for some reason is not mountable for left-handed carry. That's a whoopsie daisy on Civivi's part. Seriously, guys, figure it out. Not just Civivi, every company. Somebody tried to tell me the other day, they're like, I'm pretty sure left-handed people don't care. I don't want to speak for left-handed people, but they care. In fact, sound off in the comments section if you are left-handed and you care, because I found that comment to be, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but I'm entitled to point out when someone's opinion is stupid from my perspective. So We all have the same power. We all have the same power. Yeah, I think left-handed people are probably, would prefer that they had mounting positions, right? So anyways, let's see here. We did the hardware check, TA, we did the weight, we did all that. Yeah, let's go ahead and move into the meat and potatoes. This is a pretty cozy knife, and normally this the Loch Ness Monster clip bothers me a little bit, but because there's so much handle, that bill of the clip sinks back here, which I don't notice as much. I don't know if you guys are like me. I notice it about right here. This is the most sensitive part of my hand. Ooh, it's so sensitive. Get it back here. This part of my hand's not really sensitive at all, right? Which is why I always talk, I don't want a bill. I want a shorter clip, right? A lot of times, knives with bigger handles, especially when there's good palm swell and we've got contouring, kind of helps mitigate when you have a stupid clip. And I this isn't the worst clip in the whole world. It just bothers me because it has really killed the otherwise perfection of some designs, right? But this clip isn't as bad on this one. I also really like the texturing, and I got to point out, it is just G10, but this does look and feel a little bit nicer, and it provides very meaningful traction. In and out of your pocket, this will fray up your pants. I'm not going to call it aggressive, but man, when you're going right against these lines, which are horizontal under the clip, it's going to fray your pants up. As far as like gripping and using the knife, oh boy howdy is that comfortable. That feels really good. This is really nice. When you hold this knife, the quality of it or the execution of this knife over a typical Civivi knife is immediately apparent. There's no one that would pick this knife up and say, nah, it feels exactly the same. It doesn't. It definitely feels nicer, right? And it's a more expensive knife than a typical Civivi, and we're going to talk about that, but it does feel nicer. This is like Civivi Plus, right? It's like a Civivi and a half. The edges are nicely knocked down, almost radiused. The spine actually is radiused on this knife. The tanto looks fine if you don't like a trailing point. For some people, a trailing point knife is just not an aesthetically pleasing blade. And I gotta admit, I don't really like it either. I don't like it when we have a whoop and a whoop. It just is, it's weird. It's like a W that hasn't decided if it wants to be an L or a W, That was a weird way to describe that. But it also kind of has its own charm. And this knife is one of those knives that is more recognizable because of the way that the blade looks and because of the way that the handle looks, right? So think of that how you will. The tanto's fine. I think the regular, continuous belly version, the regular trailing point is probably better for general EDC. Obviously, your Nitro V steel not only belongs in this territory, this price range, but it is also a very nicely balanced steel that a lot of people prefer. So I don't have any issue with that. There's a flat that carries out about 55% the length of the blade. Nice swedge. A lot of character on this blade. I think the tanto even more so, whether you like it or not. I mean, there's more going on here than, a Scandi, just like a regular straight drop point, and some people like that, right? It does drop down to a fairly thin edge. So as far as slicing capability, yeah, it's there. There's a belly in this tanto. It's not straight, and puncturing, I'm sure you could imagine it will do that. Definitely not gonna have an issue there. I actually really like the gray G10 version of this the most. I think it looks a lot better than the black one, but that's going to be preference. I don't know. I feel like we don't see gray G10 enough, and I like it, right? We have a lanyard hole, so that's great for folks who use lanyards. Like I said, no lefty mounting position for the clip. The clip is the Civivi clip. I mean, at this point, right? I mean, everybody knows I hate it. Maybe you like it. That's fine. You don't have to hate it just because I hate it, but I hate it. I dislike it more every time I see it, too. Functionally, it's okay. The reason I hate it is because this bill is so unnecessary. It does create ergonomic discomfort, and it will absolutely grab when you're walking by something. And when it bends out, I mean, it's steel. So it will bend out, and then that'll be frustrating, and it'll weaken it as you bend it back. Eventually, it'll just snap off. So, yeah. A lot of times, Civivi sells a titanium clip that is way better.
And it fits a lot of these knives. I have no idea if it fits this one. Maybe it does. That's what I would opt for. But that'll, cost you more money. There's a stop pin located in its traditional spot. Probably saw a little glimpse of it right there. Plenty of shouldering. That's nice. No blade play up, down, left, or right. No lock stick. No double clutch. No pivot lash. Very consistent, very smooth in here. Really nice detent. Perfect centering. Just beautiful. And no detent lash. It's a cool knife. I like that Civivi will make bigger knives every now and then. They've shown that they're willing to do that. I really would like to see them do more, more of their, a lot of that stuff that's like, this would be cool if they also made a version of it that was big. Like, that would be really cool. And I think a lot of people would really like it. What I don't want to see is Civivi going, okay, it's bigger. We're going to charge you an extra $1 for every 1% larger it is, right? That doesn't correlate perfectly. A lot of people, there's people who get stuck on materials equal value, and there's no other elements there. Well, that's a very limited perspective, and it's not going to help you out very much. There's also people who think that bigger knives are just worth more money because they're bigger, and that's absolutely untrue. It's not always the case. In some cases, it is, right? But it's not always true. You may personally value a bigger knife more, but as far as what it costs companies to make, it largely depends on, like the same thing as usual, where it's made. How long does it take to make? What level of execution are we talking about? Then we can start to add in the materials and how big they are and how much, stuff like that, right? So in some cases it's true, but in a lot of cases it isn't. It's not a perfectly reliable, thing to lean on. This at $97, I think is just a little bit silly. It's not terrible. It's just like, come on, The smaller version of this is also, for some reason, they're just like, yeah, it's just more money. There's no way that this and the smaller one should be more than $75. I can understand. I mean, it really does feel a little nicer. But we have Civivi knives that are plain Jane, just kind of meh, and they hover around the $45 to $55 mark, and that seems just fine. You want to charge an extra $20, $25, right? Maybe $30. The Civivi Vision FG, I think, is a good example of a knife that's got a little bit more going on that kind of justifies being outside of my, where I'm not saying they have to go by my rules on what is a budget knife based on the cost, right? But the Vision FG is certainly a knife that a lot of people would say has more going on than the typical Civivi knife. And what does this guy come in at? $78, all right? So listen, if they want, let's say they wanted to charge $80 for this big guy and $70 for the small, I'd be like, all right, okay, I can see that, right? Because we've got the nicer G10, the overall nicer look and feel, right? Crown spine, things like that. Yeah, okay, fine. Not the best deal in the whole world, but okay. $97, all right. It's not good. That's not going to, kill anybody's budget. I mean, if it is, well, I don't want to tell you. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life, but probably don't be looking at knives, right? I mean, that just sounds like you have different priorities, and that's perfectly fine. I'm not coming down on anybody for having a different type of budget, right? But it just feels a little high. I just don't understand. For some reason, this Synergy line, they really feel like it's worth more money, like a good percentage. So, yeah, it's kind of weird. It's kind of a head scratcher there. It's a cool knife, feels good. I'm not the biggest fan of the look, but I'll give it credit where it's due. They are executing a little bit better. If you like this knife, you like how it looks, and you just wanted to know, is it high quality? Knock yourself out. It's like I always say, go for it. Buy what makes you happy. I'll provide the link, and it's an affiliate link. So when you buy it, I'll make a commission off of it. But if you want to know what I honestly think versus the competition, I think there's better value out there, right? I get more and more and more picky as the more knives I handle, right? So I've been saying this type of stuff a lot lately, but I don't want to hold something up on a pedestal and say that it's amazing unless it's actually amazing. And this is, it'd be a lot cooler if it was a lot less expensive. But as it sits, it's okay. That's going to be pretty much it today, guys. Thanks again to Civivi for sending this in. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody. and have a great day.